While we've built MyVisitorLog primarily to be used via a visitor or employee through their smartphone, I'm using a unique QR code. So if I come in here, go in and scan that unique QR code, and it will log me in, record my visit, etc. We do recognise that there are businesses where their visitors may or may not have a cell phone, and if they turn up, how do you track them for contact tracing purposes and perhaps asking them other health-related questions. So what we have here is our reception mode. So in reception mode, this would be sitting on a PC in the reception area. The visitor would arrive, would say they weren't able to scan the QR code because they don't have their cell phone. So obviously in environments where, councils, etc., where there may be visitors turning up who don't have that technology or they've left it behind. So all I would do is, if I was the person looking after the reception area, I would come into manually log a visitor, which would log me into basically the same screen in a bigger format than I would have on a phone. So then it will ask me my email address. So I might say my email is bob@bobs. And then because I've been here before, it instantly recognizes me. If I'd never been here before, then I would put in the visitor's name and the visitor's mobile number. Now, depending on what questions you're asking and depending on the environment where the visitor is going, I can ask who they work for. Now, if they're a visitor who doesn't work for anyone. So again, for example, if it was someone going in to pay their rates bill or have a meeting with a building inspector, then I could leave this off, but I could also put in here that I work for ABC Plumbing because I'm going to be talking to the building inspector about a job we're doing. Who am I meeting with? I'm meeting with, in this case, Raymond. Now, what will happen is if it's configured that way, and when I check in, Raymond would get an instant message saying that I was in reception for the meeting. We've then got some health and safety information, which would generally be printed on a card so that the visitor could read that information if there was something that you wanted them to agree to. Now, again, that's totally up to you whether you have that sort of information, but with COVID, we know that visitors are going to be conscious of health-related information. I then have the ability to ask them some questions, so I can ask them if I want to. Now, these are user definable and optional, so I can ask them 5 checkbox questions and up to 5 text-based questions. So here's an example, or I can ask them no questions. If I'm just checking someone into the building, I can just check them in without doing this. But I'm going to say, have you been unwell? No, I haven't. But I do agree to the policy which you've given me to read. And what's the purpose of my meeting? I'm going to going to have a meeting, and then I simply check that visitor in, and it takes me back to the screen. Later in the day, depending on the situation, whether the visitor is going to be there for a while and is going to check out. So I can just check people in to record the information, or I can check them in and out. So I might go back later in the day. Now, come back in here and see who's on site. So I can see that Bob's here. Now, Bob's finished his meeting with the building inspector, so I can simply come in here and check Bob out. I can put a note if I want to, but I can check Bob out. And now Bob is no longer a visitor on site. So I have also through this, if I need to, for example, contact trace someone or have an evacuation list. So if there was a fire or an emergency, this screen here will tell me immediately who's on site from a visitor perspective. Now, if I had staff using it, I could also see which of the staff are on site, if the staff are also using that. The way we've built this is that you can view this data, that's a horrible background, on a smartphone. So I could be outside, pull open my phone, access the site, do a head count, do a check. So this is telling me who's currently still visiting and how to reach them by cell phone. So I've got that information available to me anywhere on any internet connected device. I can also, if need be, come in here and look at a full visitor history. So this will show me everyone who was visited, when they arrived, when they left, who they were, who they worked for, who they were visiting, etc. Now, if I'm in reception mode and I'm not given the rights to, when I drill into one of these records, I won't see the way they answered any health and safety questions because privacy is important to you as much as it is to us. So I've got that information hidden in case someone who wasn't meant to got onto the reception PC and had a look at the data. If you want the reception person to be able to see that, then we can switch that on, but it is a privacy setting in the admin portal. So obviously this is the version that is just purely for reception, so they don't have any of the admin functions of being able to go in and set up the system, change the health and safety messaging, doing anything else. This is purely for a fast way of recording who's on site, when they arrived, who they're seeing, etc.